welcome to Deck Building Derezzed. I am your host, Code Marvelous, and today I am joined by the lovely Jeff Strube. How's it going, Jeff?
Hi, Dan. Doing all right.
So we're here to talk about a very exciting pet project, a deck that you've been working on for a while now, and you did something pretty cool with this deck last weekend, isn't that right?
Yeah, I won the A&RPC charity event number two,
Yeah.
which is very exciting.
Yeah, it was a good event. I was really excited to see you take it down. I like this Pilana build that you've been working on for a while. I think it's really strong, and I think it's off-brand enough that it really takes people by surprise. But I don't want to spoil too much about it. Before we actually get into a discussion of the deck list, tell me a little bit, Jeff, about how you got into Netrunner and your path to taking down a 30-person tournament.
Nice. So yeah, I got into Netrunner because my girlfriend Jen, who also plays and was at the charity tournament even, actually wanted to try this game that she was reading a lot about on Board Game Geek and other websites of that kind about Netrunner. And I was like, all right, well, let's give it a try. And the rest is history. And obviously, like a lot of players who get into Netrunner, it's definitely one of those kind of lifestyle games. I spend a lot of time thinking about Netrunner. I spend a lot of time playing online. I spend a lot of time playing in person. It's just been fantastic, and what a great community for any kind of game to be involved in.
Yeah,
I'd say,
really.
sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I really feel like that is hitting the nail on the head. Like Netrunner is like super go hard or go home. Like people either really get into it or they're like, yeah, it's all right.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree. But yeah, I started my first foray into kind of the competitive scene was about at the start of last year's store championship season. So that would be the 2016-2017 store championship season. Or sorry, yeah.
yeah,
And I finished second at my first tournament was a store championship, and I came in second. Uh, and from then on, I was hooked. I just wanted to win a deck box, and I ended up with all kind of stuff. So
that's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, no, Netrunner has that effect on people. Um, my friend Kurt and I bought a core set just at a gaming store because we're like, oh, look at this, a two-player constructed like dueling deck game. This seems neat. And then we played it, and he was kind of like, that's cool, I guess. And I was just like, had that 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 first hit. I was just like hooked. I was just like, this is so rad.
Hmm.
And the rest is history, obviously.
Yeah.
Many hours, and a disproportionate portion of my brain spent on Netrunner.
I totally feel that, and I totally understand. I spend a lot of time thinking about Netrunner.
Yeah. All right. So the deck that we're working on today is a Corp deck. It's a Pilana Foods deck. So let's start with the idea. Why are we Pilana Foods?
So the core of my idea for this deck started out actually looking very, very similar to the deck that Dan Dargenio and I think Kenny Deacons took to Canadian Nationals, the Ag Infusion list that they were on. Actually, that was very strikingly similar to the list that I was playing, and that's kind of the birthplace of this deck. Just doing kind of Excalibur cheese, just kind of score out the Nisei and go from there. The problem I was having is that I wanted to play more of a solid glacier, and I wanted to have money to spend on resin kind of bigger, beefier ice. Because at the time, Anarchs were really big in the meta. Not a lot of people were prepared to handle Glacier because it was still the kind of the early store championship season where everything was about CI and how do you go fast enough to beat CI and how do you go also at the same time have a competitive matchup versus CTM.
Right. And the Anarchs are good at making money, but they're good at setting up quickly and making money. They're not good at breaking ice efficiently.
Yeah, and so you notice like a lot of the ice choices in this deck is
Are
just good.
awful. It's
They're
awful for Black Orchestra.
they are absolutely terrible for all the Anarch breakers. So that was kind of a big, and also they're just good Jinteki ice. So
Yeah. Well, all Jateki ice is good now.
yeah.
Gone are the days when like half the ice was just like complete garbage. Um, But yeah, so
So yeah,
let's talk about the agenda suite, because I do think there's some good spice here, and I think the most notable piece of spice that we have here is you're running three like never advance like bluff agendas, which you don't usually see in this style of deck.
that's right. And the whole so again, in the older versions of this deck, this was pure score everything in a remote, bluff everything, and if you can bluff a snare for a brain trust, and if you can just cheese out a brain trust by making the runner not run it, thinking it's a baddie or something, which given the composition of most Jinteki, Pilana agenda suites, they're either all 5/3s or they have Niseis. And
Right.
there's maybe one Philotic in there. And in this case, I changed the Philotics for a Brain Trust, and the deck just got a lot better because I find I don't really need the Nisei counter as much as I really need to kind of like bluff out those agendas.
Right. The difference between if you can bait somebody into a trap, whether you're on 4 agenda points as opposed to 2, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
if you can cheaty face out a brain trust or 2, then they're like you can be like install advance, run it or don't. Really, either way is fine.
That's it.
Like you
Yep.
can really force people through the server over and over again because they have to check it.
And even if you get on 5 points, it becomes really hard for the runner to deal with, whether you're putting in a Maryland campaign, whether you're putting in a snare, a breach dome, or any number of other things, or if it's the winning Philotic or Brain Trust.
Right. So your restricted card is 3 Obokatas.
Obokata's real good. uh, you know, Runners who have film critic, we can deal with that, and it's always painful to steal an Obokata protocol. Also, I mean, some of the ice choices are there to tax cards. So if you can successfully do that to the point where you can safely pull out an Obokata. The other good thing I think that's not kind of often mentioned about Obokata protocol is kind of there's additional scoring windows that open up beyond just the runner went low on credits. Now the runner has to watch their credits and their cards, because if the runner ever has 2 cards in hand or less, generally, you can pretty safely install advance that Obokata, and they're not going to be able to get it.
Right. Yeah. No, it's good. It's NAPD, but for cards instead of credits.
That's right.
Um, and I think my favorite though is is similarly to a Future Perfect, where sometimes people hit it off of R&D, but they don't get it. Like
Hmm.
nothing is as satisfying as when you're playing Obokata and they get into the server with 3 cards and they're just like, oh. And you're like, oh yeah, you saw an Obokata, didn't you? Yeah,
Hmm.
well thanks. You can go ahead and just put that back. I'll go ahead and keep that. And it's just it feels good.
Yeah, if they ever reach the end of a server with an Obokata in it with 3 cards in hand, they're just not going to be able to steal it. Like, they're not going to be able to go back in and get it. That's really just not an option with the ice that we run in this deck.
Right. We got 1 Philotic Entanglement. It's a really solid agenda.
Yeah, sometimes you can get cheeky wins if you play it right, or open up those Obokata scoring windows. It's just a good 3-2.
Yeah, it's a really good 3-2. And a singular Future Perfect, also very solid.
Yeah, hey, I
Protects
need three.
itself.
I need 3 more agenda points, and I can throw this into archives. And if you want to run through 2 breach domes to play that side game over and over again, you can be my guest.
Yeah, oh, and yeah. Just barely edging out labyrinthine servers, right? As the bet.
That's right.
Um, yeah. All right. So we do have 2 breach domes. I'm guessing largely because you don't want to really have to commit ice to archives, and this kind of deals with that.
You do. Breach Dome is a great trap. First of all, it's 2 cards instead of one if you're playing out to the long game. Also, because the existence of breach domes are known, people don't like to check archives like they would maybe when you pitch some cards. So you can more safely deal with some flood issues. Uh,
Yeah.
that decks like this generally have since Jackson's gone, right? Like, it's hard to play a glacier deck and be able to push out agendas as quickly as you draw them if you get kind of bricked draws where you're not able to do that.
Yeah, and I actually killed somebody the other day, and I've been killed this way as well, where I've legged worked into HQ against a deck running breach domes, and I've hit the Obokata, taken it, and then hit the breach dome and died.
Yes. Yes, that does. I've had people also do the ill-fated stim hack into the server with the Obokata and then not be able to seal it because they're going to die from the brain damage.
Well, if it's the last agenda, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
This deck really wants to score those as early as possible because the rest you can definitely cheat out, and we'll get to some of that.
yeah, I feel like the Obokata is like the Oaktown. Like it's very easy to score early, and then it becomes like impossible to score a lot of times late, or
Yeah,
much harder to score late.
but the thing about it is it's always painful to steal.
Right.
So
You got two Marylands.
yeah, they're one of the newer additions into the deck. I had some spare influence, and I cut some econ, so I wanted to put some more in. And also, it's just a great, you're on brain trust and philotics and things. So you throw the Maryland in the remote, and they're going to have to check it if you're on 5 points.
That makes sense. We got NGO front, the new hotness for all those hot Jinteki decks, dragging people through awful ice over and over again.
And that's exactly the idea. This is like the key card in this deck.
Yeah, it's so bad. It's so awful.
But it's so good.
No, it is really good. That's why I started putting interdiction. I mean, you still paid to get through the ice, but like, it's nice to have the play the interdiction and be like, at least you're not gonna get the money for it, okay? And two snares, because snare's a great card.
Yeah, snare keeps people honest on those deep R&D digs or legworks into. I actually at the charity tournament I flatlined Jesse twice on snare. So
yeah, seems good. A single Chrysium grid for
this is
R&D, I imagine.
This is actually tech against the APOC deck that I was playing at the tournament, and also a couple other people were on. And just because this deck kind of has a hard time with that if you don't get things set up just right, or you aren't really lucky with hitting the APOC out of their hands with your ice. So, and it turns out it's actually just really good to stop deep data mining, which is also kind of a problem.
Yeah, I mean, and it makes it so that the Apocalypse, they have to do like a setup turn before they do it. So if they trash the Chrysium grid, they're telegraphing that they're going for it next turn.
Yeah, it's also. I mean, it's that. I mean, with an Apocalypse deck, Chrysium grid is a pretty hard counter because it's expensive to trash and you have to deal with it. And if your plan is to DDoS Apocalypse, you're in rough shape.
Yeah, absolutely. Or Eater. If you're using Eater, you might not even be able to get to it.
That's right. Yeah. Most players who are running Eater are going to be smart enough to suspect a Chrysium grid if they're running in, but it's still real painful.
Yep. So we have one Biotic Labor. I hear we got some 3/2s in this deck.
Yeah, that's right. One of the problems, so, I was talking about the meta beforehand and how I was able to just score out of the remote constantly, and I was having very little problems doing that. But since, Ginger Grid came out and there was kind of a shift to more Geist and more, which is still a problem versus this deck, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but
cheating around ice. Smoke's coming back. Geist is coming back.
People are getting better at breaking ice and and they're playing more of a control game. And so now I need ways to score my last few points. So ideally, if I can get that Obokata out early, I can relax knowing that I have ways to cheat out the brain trusts and the philotic to close the game.
And your Pilana, so you'll have money.
Yeah, so the money, I rarely have money issues with this deck. It's only if runner decks are like specifically designed to tax your money or something of that nature.
Oh, don't worry, that's coming soon. It'll be back. We're living in this meta where people are like not icing HQ on turn 1, and that would have been like heresy for the first 4 years of this game.
That's right.
So that time will come again very soon.
Yep. Yes, it will.
All right, so we got. Go ahead.
So you may have to add some more Chrysiums when that happens. So.
Yeah. Trash the top. Well, we have some genotypings in here.
Yeah. Genotyping is an interesting card. I think I play it more because it's just more fun than preemptive. I wish it cost 0, but it's basically your preemptive in the deck. It's there to help you. Again, Jackson's not a thing, so you do find yourself sometimes having to pitch agendas in archives, hoping that they stay safe and just getting the genotyping to bring them back. Also, it just cycles back any of the other cards that you may have lost. Maybe you're playing against Maul or something like that. And 3, I think, is the right number here.
Yeah,
because with a deck like this, you're going pretty slow, and you know, especially in the late game, like you kind of go fast and then you go real slow, and you kind of just grind it out. And genotyping is just a great card for that.
yeah, and it's also not a terminal, which I think is really important in these decks. I find
Mm-hmm.
preemptive is actually a hard fit in a lot of more big ice kind of glaciery rush decks because you rarely have the stuff already in the trash,
Mm.
right? Or like you want things back into the deck not at the end of the turn, so maybe you can like draw them or tutor for them or
That's right. Yeah, yeah. Basically, it does help with R&D lock, right? Like you can play a click one if they've seen the top card of R&D, or have seen like the next few cards. Like maybe they played a Maker's Eye. You can play genotyping and get that agenda if they went broke playing it.
right. We got some money. Money's real good in Netrunner.
Yep. Money is money. You
Yeah,
you feel bad when you don't draw it early.
yeah. And then we got MCA Informant, which is for the enemy of Jinteki, Film Critic, I would imagine, and probably
Yes.
Beth if they're not running Film Critic.
That's exactly right. The only like I feel like I've only ever MCA an informant either film critic or Beth in the cases where they're running like a magnum opus or something like that.
Yeah,
So
Beth is the win for my Magnum Opus deck. Like that extra click on all these rich corpse is
mhm.
is the game.
And you're running big ice. Like you are going to be staying and stabilizing right around the 15 to 20 credit mark
Right.
uh, against those types of decks. So you're going to get that 5 clicks all the time if you have a film critic. It's actually really kind of painful when you're playing a game and they install Beth before film critic and you kind of want to hold the MCA informant. You're
Just
not
in
sure whether
case.
you want to
Right.
play. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, no, it's tough. MTA is a good card, and I'm glad that it's actually starting to see more regular play in like non kill decks. Well, this is kind of a kill deck, but you know what I mean. Meat damage, like tag kill
mhm.
decks,
Yeah,
because
MCA.
it's just a value card. Oh, that really valuable connection. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep. MCA went from being, the card to kill Aaron Marone to the card to kill the film critics. So, and
and we
it's
got
it's super reliable. There's nothing you can do about it. You just play it, and the
it's
film
gone.
critic goes away.
Yeah. The only thing I actually added a second Beth into my Magnum Opus deck specifically so I could hold the second one to overwrite the first one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well,
But
you notice that there's two of these, so you're gonna see it when you need it, most likely, and we can always get it back if they're trying to do something crazy.
yep, we got this. This is pretty good.
Yeah, shipment from Tenon is
So good.
spicy enough to get out your first brain trust.
Well, it's just so
Great.
good. Nobody wants to run every turn against
Yep.
Jinteki. Nobody does. Nobody wants that.
Right, and this was the original kind of fast advance option. Like I said, that means to close the game out. The thing is that if you're playing against like kind of a control deck, like they tend to run every turn towards the late game anyways. So late game, you just need your biotic labor, and you just need to close it.
Yep. Let's move on to the ice. We got some data loop. Data loop is a big old middle finger to people who are hoping to steal Obokatas without film critics.
That's exactly right. Yeah, data loop is such an annoying piece of ice to run through. Uh, Generally, I put these on the remote, and it just becomes, between data loop and Kagugo, if you have one of each on your remote, like you
Yeah.
gotta have 7 cards in your hand to steal that Obokata.
Yeah, that's bad. That's hard.
Mhm.
That's hard for most people to do, especially in the late game when maybe they've run through all their draw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a tough ask, and Kagugo is Kagugo.
Yeah,
It's what a great
Kaguo
piece
is
of
the
ice.
best barrier in Jinteki, period.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so good. Now the parasite's gone, it's like the best.
Mm-hmm. It's really obnoxious, and it's maybe even borderline a broken card, but it's real good in this deck. So.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say broken. People just don't want to play. Like, there's so many things that have good counters that people just aren't playing. Like, people are like, God, Kagugo's so annoying. I'm like, or since you're playing Anarch anyway, because you're on Vow, you could just, like, play 2 Knifed, and, like, Knifed is just a good card. Or
Yeah.
not Knife. Yeah, Knifed. Yeah. And, like, because, like, maybe you kill a Kagugo this game. Maybe you kill what's that one? Tithonium.
Tithonium or Chiashi or whatever. Knife's
Right.
real good versus Chiashi, yeah.
Right, like, and people are like, oh, but I don't want to play Knife. I'm like, then stop complaining about Kagugo, because, like, you have the very easy answer to it in
Yeah.
faction. And
Yep.
you don't even take the net damage.
Yep. No, you don't.
Um, yeah, you heard it here first. Play your cards, people. Explore the card pool. You have Crick, which is really good. I love Crick. I actually really like it. Also, not on archives.
Yeah. Not on archives is interesting. I mean, I usually it's there just to put on archives, just to make that not an easy run, especially for like Rebirth Val, which is a very common thing nowadays, obviously.
Yeah,
Because
Crick's
all of a
good.
sudden, if you're Rebirth Val and it still costs you 6 credits to run through, or something that cost me one to res, that's pretty bad.
That's pretty solid.
Yeah.
DNA tracker's real good.
What a good piece of ice.
It's such a great piece of ice because
Yeah.
it's terrible if you break it, and it's terrible if you don't break it.
And even though, you know, it doesn't have that hard in the run that some of its like competition does, and like a Fairchild 3 or whatever, it's still you're still not going to steal Obokata behind it. So.
Yeah, it's good. Miraju's really good. Some
hmm
indexing hate.
Indexing hate, flood protection. If you put it on headquarters, a lot of people are off indexing now, probably because of all the Mirage you're going around. It's a good card, great
Yeah,
one of.
yeah, I just fem it, which feels
Yep.
terrible, but we do what we
hmm
have to.
I mean,
And
if you're femming my Mirage, you're not femming my Tracker or my Anasi, which I'm impressed by this card.
well,
What a great
you
piece of
can't
ice.
feminazi,
That's right. Yeah, you can't even fem it. It's so good, so
um,
good.
because you still technically have an encounter with it. Because
hmm
it's so bad.
Oh,
It's
doing those 3 net damage when Sunny security nexuses your Anasi is so good.
it's so good. Well, I think the big thing also is Anansi is like a reverse um nanotech because like you want this on a server by itself because since
Mhm.
so many people are on nanotech or MK Ultra, like this ice stands so well on a server just by itself.
That's right. The other good thing about Anasi is that it's 5 strength, it's not 4 strength. And that
Yeah.
makes all the difference in even the modern meta where all the Anarchs are running Ice Carver.
It takes
Uh,
9 to break this with nanotech if it's the only thing on the server.
hmm
That's
And
brutal.
it takes 9 to break it with MK Ultra if you don't have or wait, no, it's 9 to break it even if you do have Ice Carver. So it's real good.
Yeah, it's real good. Cortex Lock is really great.
Yeah,
Uh,
2 to res, 6 to break with Mick Ultra. I like that. I like those numbers.
Yeah, it's also every like flat line that I've ever had in a major tournament playing Adam has been because of Cortex Lock in my giant hand.
Yes.
Uh,
Cortex Lock gets people. It's definitely the if yeah, you're absolutely right. If I flatline somebody with this deck, it's almost always they hit a snare at a weird time or they run into a Cortex Lock.
yep, it's awful. Komainu is good. It's still a great tax, but like there's a lot more hunting grounds coming out these days. But it's still a really solid piece of ice.
People, yeah, Hunting Grounds is actually seeing, in my experience, seen a little bit of a drop since the CTM kind of went down a little bit. But Komainu is still really good. I mean, it's always good. It's basically like even if you have the most efficient breaker, you're still paying a lot for Komainu.
Yeah, maybe I'm just weird because I'm like I'm gonna start a shaper deck. All right, let's put one hunting crowns and 2 film critics in there. Now let me
Yep.
see what the rest of the deck's gonna be. Because like I just
hmm
don't like dealing with encounter effects, and I don't like actually having to steal agendas because I play a lot of punitive. So you fear what you play.
That's right.
Um, and we got a swordsman because there is a lot of people leaning very strongly on AI right now.
Yes, yes, there is, and it's another good one of. Also, I mean, if you're just playing against if you're just playing against an Anarch, like 3 credits for to break this still is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, they don't
Yeah,
want to take the net damage, so.
yeah, it's good. Yeah, so this is that deck. There's a lot of really great value. The cards look very well balanced, carefully chosen. You've got a good money spread. I like it.
hmm
So
hmm
what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go over to JNet in the test run, and Jeff, you're gonna show me how to pilot this, do some live play. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and everybody, I'm gonna put a link to the deck in the show notes, and also to the tournament where you can see Jeff pilot this deck to victory. And until we see you in the test run, always be running.